Evet, merhabalar. Bu teknik aksaklık için öncelikle özür diliyoruz. Herkese merhabalar. Gelenekten Geleceğe Mimaride Ahşap Konferansı'nın ikinci oturumuna hoş geldiniz. Let me repeat in English. Welcome to the second session of the Timber in Architecture from Tradition to Future Conference. Şimdi konuşmacılarımızdan konuşma başlığı The Architectural Construction and Advices of Using in Modern Ways Konaks of Ancient Monuments of Özbekistan başlıklı konuşmasıyla T.M. Matkulov'u davet etmek istiyorum. Our first speech will be from Samarkand State Architectural and Construction Institute in Uzbekistan. M. Matkulov with the proceeding paper titled The Architectural Construction and Advices of Using in Modern Ways Konaks of Ancient Monuments of Uzbekistan. Yes, please, the word is yours. Evet, buyurun. Sesiniz kapalı. You are muted.
Good morning, dear members of our conference. Do you listen me?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes.
All is good, yeah?
Yes, it's okay.
Can I start?
Yes, only if you can make it full screen, it will be easier for the...
Okay. One second, please.
Yes.
It's okay. It will going to on the full screen.
No, we are still seeing the slides. When you share screen,
now
it is better to select the screen, the first one.
Yeah.
And then when you make full screen, we can see it. Yes, now it is okay.
Okay.
Okay. Good morning, dear members. He is my teacher, Doctor of Philosophy and in Architecture PhD, Mahmatkulov Ilhom Turdumrodovich. Our conference theme is the architectural construction and advice of using in modern ways Hanakahs of ancient monuments of Uzbekistan. This is our theme. Okay. If I say about abstract, the information about the development of Central Asian, Central Asian Muslims institutes in the 14th and 16th centuries, the artistic and constructive development of architecture of the Hanakah buildings. The Hanakahs of this period were built in style of the magnificent architectural buildings in the form of symmetrical composite, dome-shaped structures and the construction of the shock link. which there are also scientific summaries on protection, repair, and use of objects of cultural norm. There we can say keywords: Sufism, Hanakah, Dome, Naqshbandiya, Qadriya, Peshto, and others. Do you see?
Yes.
Sufism is an Arabic word whose origins have been linked by scholars to various meanings. The first is that the term is derived from the word Safa, meaning purity, because the main focus of the teaching is on purifying the heart. Second, many mystics called them Sufis because they were coarse, woolen Germans. Thirdly, the followers of the sect lived in the sofa in front of the mosque of Muhammad and spent most of their time studying the interpreting of Quranic verse, hadiths, and other signs. Because they imitated the companions, they were called Sufis, that is, those who remained of Sufis. The word Hanakah actually means room, house, big room. In Italy, the shelters inhabited by pious Sufis and dervishes were called Hanakah. Hanakahs have different names in different countries: Central Asia, Azerbaijan, Egypt, Hanakah. Henge, Hanka, in Turkey it's called Takiya. It's true? Takiya. In the West, it is called Zawiya. In the Maghreb, pilgrims and pilgrims are generally referred to as Zawiya. There we can see one picture. The first Hanakah buildings in Central Asia were built in the form of a low, one-story courtyard built of ordinary clay or raw bricks. The roof is covered with bollards, beams, and vessels, and plastered with mud. In the 11th and 13th centuries, the stabilization of mystics in the Islamic world. And from the 12th century onwards, the construction of Hanakahs became popular as a result of the emergence of 5 major Sufi sects in Central Asia. The Hanakahs of this period were built not only of raw bricks, but also of baked bricks. The brick roofs of the Hanakah were also covered with domes during this period. Okay, next. There we can say 2 pictures. This is historical mosque in Bukhara, Naqshbandiya. Its name is Naqshbandiya. In first picture we can. The second picture we can wooden columns. In Central Asia, the Zarbalinga construction used since the time of the Timurids was used. That is the construction of a dome built of 4 interlocking brick arches rising from 8 places above the walls of the hall. Okay, next. There we can say a lot of constructions. In right side, we can cite Chorsu Gumbaz. First picture 2 is Mirzoi Gumbaz and Shaykh Mukhtar Vali Hanakahs. So Linka Zarba Gumbaz, where we can see big pictures here. Our next. Restoration of architectural monuments as well as the main principle of its use is to preserve the building in its original form. Here, on the one hand, there is a need to preserve the monuments without changing their internal and external appearance. And on the other hand, there is a need to find a task for each monument that corresponds to its exciting structure. However, this is not only an architectural, but also a spiritual problem. The use of the building and its territory should not disturb the historical and natural landscape. On the contrary, in order to show the cultural, historical, and architectural richness, it is necessary to create conditions for original appearance of the building and to help not only tourists but also professionals to get acquainted with it. There, okay, there we can project. Okay, it builds in 17th century in under name Hoca Abdi Darun Hanakah. We can see here its graphic. Okay, next. It buildings in Samarkand, 14th and 15th century, Gori Amir, Muhammad Sultan Hanakah. There out of pictures, we can say it's graphic. Okay, next. It situates in Bukhara. It was building 13th and 15th century, Hanakah. In right side, we can say about it all informations. There it's pictures too, names. Our next. The analysis of scientific and technical knowledge accumulated on the repair of architectural monuments in foreign countries and their use for modern purpose will help to create an opportunity for architectural monuments in Uzbekistan to enter a new life. One of the most important aspects of the decision of monuments to modern purpose is a thorough study of the historical area of the monument and the history of its formation. The principles of use of monuments developed in Uzbekistan to date focus on the main criteria for chronologizing the life of monuments and the development of solutions for their rational use. Next. Methods of using architectural monuments are currently based on the following scientific conclusions. The main requirement for the adaptation of any architectural monument and modern purpose is the maximum preservation and preservation of the monument. An individual approach to the adaptation of any architectural monument for modern purpose. Okay. Our suggestion for the use of hotel buildings, the use of hanakahs with white halls and front ports and mosques for the settlements where they are located. To do this, determine the direction of the qibla of such hanakahs and shape it accordingly. And the use of small rooms with no porch around the hall as shrines or the construction of front ports around the hall as a mosque. We believe that the use of Ganesh and wood carvings as a workshop of folk arts will give good results. This is because some of the rooms have rooms that look like halls, which are very suitable for above-mentioned functions and at the same time have almost no effect on the monument. Our next page. Okay. Our theme is our. Okay. I'm ready for the questions. If you have.
Mine hocam sesiniz kapalı. Mine hocam, we cannot hear you.
Özür dilerim. Thank you for your presentation. It was very interesting. There will be a questions and answers part at the end of the session. So if you can please wait till the end of this second session. If there are questions about your paper, you will be able to answer them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. So now we will continue with our second paper titled The Role and Significance of the Use of Wood Materials in the Architecture and Construction of Traditional Houses of the Indigenous Peoples of Uzbekistan from Dilorom Zukrunovna Salakstinova. I am sorry, I cannot read correctly. Evet, şimdi ikinci sunumumuzla devam ediyoruz. Buyurun.
Good afternoon, our colleagues. Here we are together. We're making our presentation on English.
Okay.
Diloro, and I'm your colleague. We will introduce our presentation.
Yeah. Şu katedrada da boya koyuyor. Nazarada. Of course.
Can you see the whole presentation in the full screen?
No, currently it's not full screen.
Okay. We'll try. And now?
Yes, it is okay now.
Okay.
Yes, please. The word is yours.
Start then. Okay. The role and significance of the use of wood materials in architecture construction of traditional houses of the indigenous peoples of Uzbekistan. The history of Samarkand can be traced back to the Paleolithic period, which makes it one of the oldest inhabited centers of Central Asia. The city is famous with squares ensembles built during the Golden Age. Among them, one of the most impressive and world-famous structure is the element ensemble of the Jami Mosque and Mausoleum Bibi Khanum, built by great Emir Timur. At the end of the 12th century, architectural grandeur of the building consisted not only in the civic scale of the ensemble, but was also lined with mosaic tiles in floral and geometrical ornaments. While Timur was known to foreigners as a ruthless conqueror, in his hometown, he demonstrated a passion for art. Timur's ambitions led to the creation of the huge empire, but the spirit to the effort and no means for building in the capital city of Samarkand. He financed the construction of ornate and designed buildings and attracted artisans in the construction of housing and architectural structures. The main requirements were their strength and stability of housing and architectural structures. Our ancestors, builders, architects, developed building canons that allowed us to build wonderful earthquake-resistant, stable buildings that have stood for centuries. Therefore, many of them have survived to this day, having withstood heat and frost, earthquakes, fires, enemy raids, and here it is impossible not to say that the ancient architects used it in the work a solution of gypsum, as we know, the ganj, which is very elastic. It is at the same time durable like a spring, which contributed to the earthquake resistance of buildings. Uzbek folk dwelling like a pearl shell conceals the treasure of the art inside the shell, deep, and futurist clay walls. Only sometimes an architectural touch, shadow, spot a loggia and a lattice opening envelopes the main surface of the street facade. But inside the courtyard, the visitor is greeted, in contrast to the dust and heat of the street, by the cool shade of the Ayvan, the greenery of the vineyard, cleanliness and comfort instead of monotonous walls. Exquisite spatial combinations, fine finishing of the details of the Ayvan and the room. The appearance of the dwelling is characterized by spaciousness, picturesque, and scale, and that spatial intimacy that is generated by the loving and attentive arrangement of each corner and detail. Even the most modest dwellings followed architectural traditions and provided valuable material for study. All kinds of folk art, craftsmanship, ganj, and wood carving, ceiling, and wall painting are involved in the decoration of the dwelling. Works of artistic craft contribute to the same purpose: coining and engraving on copper trays, kuf tires, etc. Ceramics, watering dishes, wood carving, chests, and caskets. All these utensils are placed in special niches. In addition, the walls are decorated with various types of embroidery. The plot is divided into outer and inner halves, biryun and darun. In our culture, we know that in Central Asian culture, we have two types of houses. First of all, inner side, it called as the darun, and outside the court, our houses, it called as a berun. On the first, the owner received visitors and engaged in handicrafts. A mehmanhana, it's called as a hall. Stables, a ferrage, warehouse were located here. On the second, the life of the family took place. The living quarters of the home, where we can see, as in our ancient traditions, the interior or inner house was dedicated to the khans and imperators. And in nowadays, it serves as like a inner house and outer house. And service kitchens, storerooms, etc. were grouped. Sometimes a special house yard was allocated, and in same cities, the size of the plot allowed cultivating a garden. There was a garden. The largest researcher of the history of folk architecture of Central Asia of the late feudal period, Pisarchik, wrote that the masters of the late 18th, first half of the 19th century made the most important wooden parts of buildings from naturally growing forests, mainly juniper and spruce, whether meadow poplar, pine. These three species were highly valued for their resistance to rot. The use of arc in construction was considered not only desirable, but also mandatory, prescribed by administrative orders. Juniper went to the upper and lower bindings, over racks, beams, and other structure of buildings, by the order of the government general of the Turkestan region of 1879. The cutting down on juniper forests and sale in markets were prohibited. We can share our pictures. If you can see in this picture, there are column and beams structure is like there are wooden construction and wooden materials go through like in the vertical and horizontal line. Ceilings, it was shown by the interior ceilings. Ceilings of a resistant building, the type of decoration of the ceiling of the room according to the degree of complexity of the execution can be divided into such options as beams and vassa. It means that such like wooden sticks will be decorated in the vertical version. Vasa is interspersed with the plank squares. Beams and vaga are framed around the perimeter with the plank squares. A plank ceiling divided into squares, a plank ceiling with proofing, and on application of slats, a plank-shaped ceilings. The most common and ubiquitous type of ceiling of an open structure is beams and vasa. According to the degree of thoroughness of execution, here again several cases differ. The most modest type, when the vasa and not tightly closed, but are placed with intervals through which the bardana lying on top of the vasa is visible, is called buira vasa. I must say that this simplest kind of ceiling, if it is not dilapidated, does not leave an ugly impression at all. Beams in this case are not processed and are left in a natural round form. A cleanly worked beam ceiling has tightly fitted vasa and hewn beams, tusun or bolor. Tusun and bolor, it calls our such like a, if you can say, as a three pivotal body. It will be go horizontally in the house to making ceilings. Along the edges of the ceiling at the longitudinal walls, the planks imitate the wall bars. The number of the ceiling beams in normal room sizes is 7, not counting the extreme ones. This number associated with religious superstition was considered lucky. If the length of the room exceeds the normal, the number of the beams increases to 9 or 11. In any case, an odd number is always preferred. The ribs of the beams and their joints with vasa are circled with the zanjira. In Bukhara and the Bukhara region, there is a manner of rounding the cross-section of rectangular beams in the middle of the span, and the transition from a straight cold section to a round or faceted one is carried out in various ways. One of the options of decorating the middle of the beams is a harness-shaped carving, which creates the semblance of a small kalam of the type that the usual width of the beams is about 5 centimeters. But there are deviation and one direction, all the other. Sometimes fake vasa boards are made. The boards are planed with a roller pilta vasa. Ceiling beams are decorated with carvings or paintings. The first technique is replaced by the second in the half of the last century. Vasa remained in their natural form or were dyed. In the cities of Kashkadarya, vasa were covered with a red point or pointed in pairs in various bright colors. I should add to for this information that you know that in Uzbekistan we had a lot of villages, and in every villages or great cities we had own decoration system. For example, in Kashkadarya, as mentioned above, there was a covered red paintings. By the way, in the Samarkand, it would be another color, like a cyan or maybe blue or maybe such kind of. In Tashkent, maybe another decoration system and ornamentation is different from region to region. Okay. The intermediate racks were called kalama. We should say about Avans and about Samarkand region. In the Samarkand, at the end of the 19th, beginning of the 20th centuries, according to the tradition of earthquake-resistant construction, a combination of walls made of double and single wooden frames, called kushinch or çuftsinç and yakasinç. It's mean in English, if we translate by the word by word, it will be mean such kind of like trees pivotal body will be put in between the walls because it is called as a kushinç or yakasinç. It is why it is so important because in our region it is earthquake regions, and that's why in our traditional houses in ancient times our ancestors were used earthquake resistant as a natural construction type. The frame is formed from the lower binding çorçöp. It's mean 4 sticks. The upper binding parçakari, struts, crossbars, nim parçakari, and braces below. It used as the pivotal the body of the tree. Usually the back wall of the living room, which necessarily had niches, and tokcha, was built from a double frame, and the front wall consisted of a single frame. You can see
excuse me, you are exceeding your time. Can you finish in a few minutes?
Okay. Okay, we should conclude. In Uzbekistan, in under modern condition, the technological advances wood becomes in these countries the more it is a renewable natural material available in centuries located in northern latitudes. But in Central Asia, wood is now widely used as a decorative material in the interiors of public buildings. Currently, burnt bricks and burnt concrete are in great demand in Uzbekistan as a building material, and gas concrete blocks are beginning to spread. Uzbekistan lumber imported almost 90%, as a result of which they try to minimize the use of wood in construction during construction. Wood is widely used mainly in the execution of interiors in national style. Also expensive wood species are used for the manufacture of expensive exclusive furniture. Thank you for your attention. And have you got any questions? We are ready.
Thank you for the presentation. There will be a Q&A session at the end of this second session. So if you can please wait till the end of the session. If there are questions about your paper, I will direct to you. Thank you again.
Okay, now, thank you for your attention.
Thank you. And now we are going to continue with our third paper of the second session of today, from Balgaeva Shakida. The title of the paper is The Role of Wooden Columns in Traditional Architecture and Interiors in Central Asia. Yes, please, the word is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon, dear conference committee, professors and participants. I am glad to participate in this conference. And okay. Can you see?
No, we don't. You don't share anything now.
And now?
Yes, now.
But yes. Okay.
Can you make it full screen, please?
Full screen, how? F5? Yes. Okay. Now is full screen?
No.
No?
No.
Why is it? Okay. Please, just a moment.
Okay.
So full screen.
Okay. Siz nimaga kirganmisiz?
Hozir nima qildim? Mana bunisi.
Хорошо.
Yes, now it is okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Our paper is the role of wooden columns in traditional architecture in interior Central Asia. After Balgaev Abdusamad, Ahşap professor of the Department of Architectural Design, then Balgaev Shahida, it's me, Ahşap professor PhD of the Department of Architectural Design, and third after is Toshkul Shirzod, third year student of the Faculty of Architecture. With your permission, I would like to begin my presentation. I hope everyone will be interested. So next is, yes. The art of Uzbek architects as the historical tradition of its development shows organically included the techniques of artistic design of architectural structures and details, local features of planning and construction techniques, the technology of processing local building materials, and of course the general level of artistic culture were reflected in the architectural decor, in doing it with features of local originality. The columns have gained popularity long ago and for a long time. They are wonderful decoration for any building because they give it a touch of historicity and elegance. Despite the fact that over time, the appearance of the columns changed, modern they took on the features of a particular architecture style. The basic elements were always visible in their design, including the base is the bottom of the column, carrying the load on the base. In the classical columns of the Doric warrants, this part did not exist. The trunk, otherwise the body of the column. Actually, this is the main part of the column. In classical architecture, the trunk was often decorated with flutes for the expansiveness of form. The capital, the upper part of the columns, which distributed the load from the upper elements. It is also optional, but allows you to express the beauty of the whole element. One of the oldest centers of Uzbekistan erases the entire Central Asian architectural carving is Kiva. Here, by a happy coincidence, magnificent examples of carved wooden columns of the 10th, 14th centuries transferred to the later structures of medieval mosques have survived. In the interior of the Gema Mosque, one of the Bagbandi Mosque. Gema Mosque in Kiva is one of the most famous in Central Asia. This building has a traditional, even archaic layout. The whole of the mosque, measuring 45 by 55 meters, has a rectangular shape and is covered with a flat roof. There are many columns in the hall, a massive wall with 3 entrances surround the hall. You can, for example, the columns. Then, according to the studies of the Arab geography Muqaddasi, the Juma Mosque dates back to the 10th century. The building reproduces a type of archaic multi-column mosque, which is rare for Central Asia. Basically, it is just a hardwood floor over the plaza. The main artistic wall and northward of the cathedral mosque is, of course, carved wooden columns. There are 213 of them, different in size, architectural form, decoration, and time of manufacture. Over the centuries, many columns have fallen into disrepair due to natural reasons. They were also gradually replaced by others. Thus, the variety of the columns of the mosque reflected the individual stage of the development of the entire building. The most ancient, these columns could have been taken from the medieval capital of Khorasan, which perished in the Amadara River, the city of Kiat. 21 columns of the Gema Mosque date back to the 10th to 12th centuries. Among them, 4 columns of the 10th, 11th centuries are especially valuable. They were installed as evidenced by the Kufic letters carved on them by order of the Faqih Abul Fadl al-Muhammad Laisi. The architectural form of these columns is extremely interesting. The predominant type of columns of ancient Khorasan architecture is clearly expressed in them. The base of Kuzagi with descanting leaves, faced trunks, capitals with above ornamentation in the form of separate repeating floral motifs. So then, Central Asian architectural decor of the last century covered with decorated, mainly external doors, gates, columns of ivans of mass residential buildings, as well as palace and religious buildings. Carved and painted ganj being mainly interior decor, while used to decorate ceremonial rooms and decorate ivans. So then, in Bukhara, with sultry climate, such premises during the hot time of the day are shaded rooms and ivans, usually decorated with carvings and paintings on ganj and wood. Here, for example, in Bukhara, then in Kiva, a similar room is a tall Kul Ivan with an indispensable carved columns carrying the main girder. For example, here in Kiva, a smart slender like no other region of Uzbekistan, a wooden columns of a large Ivan is often the only decoration of house. Here, for example, in Samarkand city, here in Margaland city. It depends on the modern architecture whether he wants to see it in hard, wise work and whether he can give this art a new life, finding in it valuable seed of a beautiful future for architecture. Here, woodworking, for example, woodworking with wood, you can see here, for example, woodworking. So here also. So this is also. Thank you for attention.
Thank you for the presentation. There will be a Q&A part at the end of the session. So if you can please wait till the end of the session. And now we are going to continue with Onur Şimşek from Fatih Sultan Mehmet Vakıf University with his presentation titled The Timber Construction of the Great Mosque in Kiva. Evet, buyurun.
Thank you, Mine Hocam. Good afternoon, dear guests. I also want to thank to my dear colleagues from the faculty and department for this conference, and will immediately start with my presentation. I have to say that it will be similar to the presentation from my colleague, because I think one of the most popular topics of this conference is the Juma Mosque in Kiva. Mine Hocam, is my presentation visible?
Evet, şu an tam ekran. Yes, it is visible.
Okay. Then I will continue. The construction of mosques in Central Asia traces to the beginning of the 8th century. The architectural schools of Bukhara, Khwarezm, and Fergana had enduring regional influence on the development of Islamic architecture in Transoxania, Mawara and Nahr. The first Islamic praying areas were situated within existing buildings like palaces, caravanserais, and madrasas. Later, the mosque architecture in Uzbekistan developed in two main types: the quarter mosque called Guzar, the Friday Mosque, Jami, and as additional, maybe third type, we may include the Namazgah Mosque, which was used during the Eid. The Guzar on the left in Bukhara is an example for the mosque in Mahallas, which was used for daily prayers. And here we have a Namazgah Mosque example from Bukhara, which was used for the Fitr, Ramadan, and Kurban Eid for male prayers. And this is the most important one, the Friday Mosque in Bukhara from 15th century. This type was used by prayers as actually in the nearly the whole Islamic world for the Friday prayers from all quarters together. The Friday mosques are categorized in two main types. In this region, the courtyard mosque and the hypostyle mosques. The hypostyle mosques mainly consisted of lighter wooden structures and roof constructions with beams and posts. The history of timber construction in Central Asia and Uzbekistan goes back thousands of years. The ancient Greek historian Herodotus, 500 in the 5th century BC, tells already about yurts. The yurt became a central building type in Central Asia, and it is still in use today by nomads when they move to grazing areas in spring. The sophisticated lightweight structure of the warm fence wall enables quick assembly and disassembly, as well as easy transportability. The prefabricated central roof wheel of crown as smoke opening above the central fireplace or hearth enables the central sunlight to the interior, and this crown as central light source and link to the nature shows parallels between the yurt tradition and Asian central mosque plan with courtyards. If we come to closer to Kiva, between 17th and 20th century, 3 Khanats existed in the territory of Uzbekistan: Kokand, Bukhara, and Kiva. According to the different geographic location, natural condition, political and socioeconomic parameters, 4 architectural schools as Bukhara, Samarkand, Khwarezm, and Fergana developed. These schools in the oases as well as in the cities had enduring regional influence on the development of Islamic architecture in Transoxania. The mosques were built in different sizes and designs. Kiva is only half an hour away from the old capital Urgench. In the Khwarezm oasis and Kiva city, architecture developed especially during the 18th and 20th century when it was the capital of Kiva Khanat. Kiva became the 3rd capital according to the archaeological remains. The city dates back to the 6th and 8th century. Ishankhala is the walled inner town of the city of Kiva, which we can see on the pictures. Ishankhala, with more than 50 historic monuments, is a UNESCO World Heritage Site since 1990. Here we see one of the gates and the wall of the Ishankhala and the monuments. Here on this picture on the left side, we see the Islam Khoja minaret from 1910. And on the right side, the Kalta minaret from the 19th century with a diameter of 15 meters. The rich timber tradition has a crucial role within the architectural heritage of Kiva. We have already seen these examples in other presentations, and I think we will see them also later, thanks to the support from our colleagues from Uzbekistan. And the Friday Mosque of Kiva is located in the historical Ishankala. According to the Arab geographer Muqaddasi, the Juma Mosque dates back to the 10th century, but today's Juma Mosque was rebuilt and expanded with spoilers in the years 1788 and 89 by Abdurrahman Mihtar, a high official of the Khan of Kiva. The mosque is surrounded by brick walls. On the right side, the mosque of the entrance. On the right side of the entrance, a tall minaret with 38 meters is one of the landmarks within the Ishankala, the historic center of Kiva. The mosque has a rectangular shape with a size of 55 by 46 meters and has 3 entrances. The mosque has one entrance to graves on the south side. The main entrance is on the north side, and on the east side there is a 3rd entrance. On the Qibla wall, on the eastern wall, are windows opening to the streets, and on the walls on the north and west side, they don't have any openings. On the right side of the entrance, we have the minaret, as I already told. Here on the right picture, we see the area in front of the mihrab niche with the carpets where the guests can pray if they want. So it's possible to pray inside, but we don't have the praying area in the whole mosque for every day. The Friday Mosque of Kiva is located in the historical Ishankala. As I told, the mosque, I'm sorry, I don't want to repeat these informations. 2 light wells in the center of the mosque provide light and ventilation. 212 wooden columns with a height of 4.5 meters support the flat beam structure. The distance between the columns is 3 meters. Thus, the timber roof is divided in square fields with 3 by 3 meters in the above the columns. Traditionally, these fields are decorated, but here in the Juma Mosque of Kiva, the entire roof is undecorated and very modest. On the left side, we see the mihrab niche, and on the right side, we have a water source in the center of the mosque where prayers can drink water. The columns have spherical bases. This design helps to reduce the contact area of the wooden column to the wet ground and prolongs life of the columns. Due to the spoiler character of the columns and their stone change in form and size, displays a diversity of different centuries. 8 columns surround the area, the small symbolic courtyard with plants. This area within the harem is lit by the opening above. Nowadays, it is covered by a glass construction. These 2 openings are very important for the regulation of the humidity of the wooden columns. The ventilation through the new glass roof has to be regulated properly. 4 columns from the 10th century have carved inscriptions in different calligraphy styles. For example, Kufi. One of the columns has the hadith, praying is duty for Muslims. Other inscriptions in Kufic lettering are about the donors. In 2008, one of the 4 inscribed columns was removed. With its 112 black elm pillars, the Friday Mosque within the Ishankala of Kiva is one of the most famous multi-columned mosques in Central Asia. Some of these wooden columns are probably the oldest examples that that exist within the mosque. Although the current building is from 1789, the oldest pillars date back to the 10th century. In the following centuries, later examples of timber pillars were added. I will continue more quickly. Here we see the geometric pattern and the calligraphy detail. And here the entire entrance. These details show the beam construction, the detailed carved capital of the column, the curvy transition to the beam, and the cantilever towards the light well. As you can see, according to the different height of the spoilers, the column at the corner is situated without a capital. On the right side, we see floral motifs carved within the geometrical pattern. We see that symmetry determines the composition and same carving motifs are used on both sides of the pattern. Next to the columns, and capital doors are very important within the decorated timber tradition in Çankaya and Uzbekistan. Here we see in the middle the wooden door of the Juma Mosque with a calligraphic inscription and geometrical motifs. On both sides, other examples in the Çankaya with detailed geometrical wood carving examples. So these are other details. I am trying to be very fast. So I also want to show here this new architecture of the Örgenç airport, which tries to design with the reference of traditional forms, which is visible also in the other cities of Uzbekistan. And at the end of my presentation, I will show two mosques from Anatolia. The first one is Aslanhane Mosque in Ankara from 1289 with 24 wooden columns of walnut trees which carry the layered beam structure. It's interesting here that we have also here spoilers. Here ancient capitals are used in different sizes and forms above the wooden columns. And also the mimbar of this mosque is constructed with walnut wood. On the right side, we see the very interesting mihrab, but I will continue. And in Konya, we have a second very interesting wooden mosque example in Anatolia, in Konya, also from the 13th century. Here we have 42 wooden columns, which are carrying 480 beams. Here we have original wooden capitals above the columns, which and the columns sit on stone basic here. Mukarnas capitals are very, very interesting and very similar to those examples in Uzbekistan. And I think here the comparison is very interesting. All wooden elements are cedar tree in the mosque. And also the mimbar of the Eşref Oğlu is constructed by walnut wood in kündekari technique, which means that the elements of the mimbar are connected without nails or glue. On the right side, we see the sophisticated geometrical patterns with the detailed carvings, as we can find them also on the columns of the Juma Mosque in Kiva, on the right side of the mimbar. And above the door of the mimbar, we see the name of the Prophet and his 4 caliphs, which are written in Makili Kufi calligraphy style. As a conclusion, these examples of wooden hypostyle mosques in Uzbekistan and Anatolia demonstrate properly that wooden elements and constructions have proved themselves as stable cultural documents of the Islamic architectural heritage for the last 1,000 years. Comparative analysis between Uzbekistan and Anatolia and exchange of experience and knowledge may support the important task of protecting them, revitalizing, enriching, and strengthening the sustainable and aesthetic tradition. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Onur Hoca, for your presentation. Now we can continue with the questions and answers part. If you have any questions to our presenters.
I think there's a question from Esra Karahan. Let me. Yes, Esra Hocam.
Merhaba, ben sorumu Onur Hocama sormak istiyorum. Çok teşekkür ederiz. Son derece ilginç bir sunumdu. Çok merak ettim. Buradaki Cuma Mosque'daki ahşap kolonların mesnet noktalarında özellikle kesitlerinin küçülmesi bana son derece statik bakımdan tipik olmaması bakımından çok ilginç geldi. Acaba bu noktalarda bir metal bağlantı elemanı var mı? Ya da doğrudan ahşabın kesitinin küçülmesiyle mi meslekleniyor? Ve bu bir problem oluşturdu mu zaman içinde acaba?
Esra Hocam, benim gözlemlediğim kadarıyla ikisi de var. Geleneksel daha çok eski yapılarda direkt ahşabın orada kullanılması ama yeni tekniklerde metal parçaların devreye girmesini ben gözlemleyebildim. Ama geleneksel olan ahşabın devam etmesi. Benim araştırabildiğim kadarıyla orada yani estetik şey bir tarafa teknik olarak faydalı olması açısından orada ahşabın suyla olan temas yüzeyini azaltma gibi bir pratik tarafı olduğunu ben araştırmalarımda buldum. Ama belki başka şeyleri de tabii olabilir. Estetik tarafının dışında.
O bölgede belki depremin olmaması bunun yapılabilmesini mi sağlamıştır? Gerçi çok da net bilmiyorum depremselliğini Özbekistan'ın ama.
Bilmiyorum ama belki bu soruyu İngilizce olarak mümkünse Özbekistanlı meslektaşlarımıza da sorabiliriz. Onların cevabını da merak ediyorum açıkçası.
Hocam acaba sizden yardım isteyebilir miyim bu konuda?
Deneyelim tabii ki. Dear colleagues from Uzbekistan, I would like to translate this question, very interesting question from my colleague Esra Karahan, also to you because I would like to hear your answer. She's interested in the connection points of the columns where the diameter is decreasing to a smaller diameter. We would like also to hear from you what are the reasons for this solution, aesthetical reasons and technical reasons. Maybe you could also answer this question from your experience in Uzbekistan.
Hocam, can we share the photograph with the slide to show the
of course
show the detail? Maybe it will be easier to explain.
Yeah. 1 minute. Is it visible now, Burcu Hocam?
Evet, şimdi gözüküyor.
Yes,
yes, it is visible now.
So maybe Balgeva could be Dr. Balgeva could answer, or
okay, if they are not here anymore, I saw that there is also another presentation about the Juma Mosque in Central Asia in Kiva in the next session. Maybe we can ask the
after that presentation we can ask them.
We can repeat the question.
In the third session. Okay.
Evet.
Ama gerçekten ilginç, çünkü hani oturduğu yerde kesit genişlemesi beklenirken daralarak geliyor.
Ama orada bir ara eleman var gibi, sanki taş gibi o. Yani lamba zıvana gibi ama bir taşla ahşabın birleşim noktası gibi.
Evet, orada birleşim noktalarında hocam malzeme değişebiliyor. Taş oluyor. Yenilerinde metal oluyor.
Ahşaplarda, özellikle teraslardaki ahşaplarda ahşap dikmeler geliyor. Ne yapıyor? Bir metal plaka üzerine oturuyor. O metal plaka tekrar yere basıyor. Ama neyle basıyor? Gene bir metal veyahut da bir başka taş veya bir şeyle basıyor. Yani daha ince bir elemanla basıyor. Yani gene aynı şey burada. Yani yükün transfer edilmesi, ama tabii orada yük daha fazla konsantre bir şekilde, değil mi? Yük dağılımı meselesi. Onun için de bunlar zannediyorum biraz yuvarlamışlar şeyin altını, kolonların altını.
Evet, galiba.
Zaten çatının yükü çok da ağır da değil. Mesafeleri çok de değil. 3 metreye 3 metrelik bir mesafede konulmuş. O açıdan çapları da çok küçük de değil. De zaten çağdaş mimaride de aslında bunun İbrahim Hocam'ın da anlattığı gibi farklı bir versiyonunu görüyoruz. Sütun iniyor aşağıya, sonra demirle o bağlantı noktasında çok küçük bir çapla dokunuyor. Onun bir geleneksel versiyonu.
Pabuçla oturtuyoruz.
Evet.
Hocam, sizin gösterdiğiniz Ankara'daki ve Konya'daki çok kolonlu ahşap camilerimizde doğrudan biz kesitlerin büyük olduğuna alışmış olduğumuz için belki bu son derece ilginç geliyor. Yani Anadolu'daki versiyonu kesitin küçültülmeden zemine bağlanması belki de o yüzden alıştığımız şeyin dışında olduğu için ilginç geliyor.
Özbekistan'da da öyle örnekler de var. Altta ve üstte normal düz kesilmiş, süslemesiz ve başlıksız, sütun başlıksız ve temelsiz, ayaksız. Ama tam açıkçası o farkların üslupla mı alakalı olduğunu, yoksa o andaki maddi imkanlarla mı alakalı olduğu ile ilgili çok detaylı bilgiye sahip değilim. Belki sunumlar arasında onlar da geçer.
Teşekkür ederim.
Ben teşekkür ederim.
Başka sorumuz yok galiba. Evet, bu durumda herhalde ikinci oturumumuzu bitirebiliriz. Since we don't have, şimdi geldi galiba. Evet. Yusuf Hocam, sorunuz herhalde Onur Hoca'ya. Mihrap kenarlarında mermerden taklit var değil mi? Diye bir sorusu var Yusuf Hoca'nın. Sizin gösterdiğiniz ahşap minberin kenarında mermer taklidi sıva var mı diye soruyor sanırım.
Aslanhane ve mi acaba?
Hocam bir ahşap minber gösterdiniz, o diye düşünüyorum.
Minberin kenarında.
Evet. Minberin kenarında mermer taklidi.
Ya o arkadan mihrap görünüyordu. Galiba onu kastediyor. Şöyle tekrar yanlışlık olmasın diye gösteriyorum.
Mihrap, pardon. Evet.
Soru minberdeki mermer mi, mihraptaki
mihrap,
mi?
pardon. Mihrap.
Evet, taklit değil de burada gerçekten sırça kullanılmış.
Yine.
Sırçalı bir mihrap. Bunu mu kastediyor yoksa acaba Aslanhane'yi mi kastediyor?
Bir tane daha vardı sanki. Şurayı ben anladım sanki ama.
Bu Aslanhane'nin mihrabı burada tuğlalar, sırçalar ve alçı kullanılmış süslemede. Yani burada imitasyon yok da Yusuf Hoca'yı tanıdığım kadarıyla mermer imitasyonlarıyla ilgileniyoruz. O öyle bir şey mi gördü acaba, ama burada benim gösterdiğim örneklerde benim gördüğüm kadarıyla şey yok. Mermer imitasyonu yok. Arkada burada gerçek sırçalar var. Bir de bir şey mi acaba, şunu mu soruyor burada?
Hoca sesi ayarlayamıyormuş. Yazmış buradan, Osmanlı camilerinde süs olarak o detayın olduğundan bahsetmek istemiş.
Evet.
Evet.
Tahmin ettim ben Osmanlı'daki o mermer imitasyonlarını, ama buradaki örneklerde ben öyle bir şey görmedim. Buradaki bir şeyi benzetti mi tam emin olamadım sorudan. Kusura bakma Yusuf Hocam.
Evet. Yani boyalı olduğu için evet, böyle mesela siz ahşap olduğunu söylemeseniz ben de mihrabın ahşap olduğunu ilk görünüşte düşünmezdim.
Evet, o olabilir. Belki ben onu
Evet.
mihrap ve minberde hiçbir ahşap başka malzeme gibi gösterilmeye çalışılmamış. Orada çini, tuğla, alçı hepsi olduğu malzemede kullanılmış. Ahşap üzerine boyama orada yok.
Evet.
Selçuklu'da öyle bir şey yok. Evet. İyi oldu. Belki öyle anlaşılmıştır. Tekrarladığımda iyi oldu.
Evet. Peki, çok teşekkürler. O zaman başka soru gözükmüyor. İkinci oturumu kapatıyorum. Tüm konuşmacılara çok teşekkürler. As we have no more questions to the presenters, I am closing the second session of the conference. Thank you for your interesting presentations, and we will continue with the third session soon.
Teşekkür ederim ben de. Thank you very much.
Görüşmek üzere.